So we've got a large panel today, and so I'm just going to ask everyone just to introduce themselves, because there are a couple of new faces to World Aviation Festival joining us. You know Sophie, so Ricky, why don't just...
Hi, I'm Ricky Horwitz. I'm the Global Chief Sales Officer for Allianz Partners in our travel space.
Lukas Johnson, the Chief Commercial Officer at Breeze Airways.
Hi, this is Onur Dedekoylu, Chief Commercial Officer at Pegasus Airlines.
And Waddell, I'm our global head for the travel and transportation industries at IBM and former United, and on the commercial side for a long time.
Right. So, we're here to talk about moving from strategy to execution. How do we rethink the commercial playbook for 2026 and the years beyond that? So let's just start by taking a look. What are some of the big, and I'm going to ask this of the airlines first, what are some of the biggest trends you're seeing in your customers, your passengers' behaviors, some of the changes in their behaviors during the past year that appear to be long-lasting? Onur, I'm going to ask you to start us off.
All right. I guess the most important change that we've been experiencing since the pandemic is the passengers' request and seek for flexibility. And it seems that, such a long-lasting crisis during the pandemic showed the customer behavior, changed the customer behavior very significantly. And I think it's here to stay for a longer time. And those airlines who adapt to this change will win, and those who don't will lose some of the demand. I would say the second thing is their desire to own the journey, the ability to be able to reach the info as they want, and to be able to manage their booking, and especially during times of disruptions, empowering the passengers to be able to do whatever they want is the second key change happening. And the third thing from our point of view is, of course, AI. How AI is going to change the way passengers perceiving the airlines, like in all other sectors and brands, nothing specific to us, but definitely for the airlines as well, because we are multinational and not known to all passenger segments that we try to penetrate to. And very soon, Gen AI tools, LLMs, will be sales platforms, and passengers transition to using LLMs as sales platforms will come very quickly. That change will happen very quickly, and therefore we need to adapt to that change.
Okay. I'm going to come back to that point that you made AI shortly, Onur, so thank you for bringing it up. Lukas, what are some of the changes that people are seeing at Breeze? For those of you who don't know Breeze, it is the latest airline started by David Neeleman, and it is a US, or I should say North American-focused airline. You're actually starting your new international service.
We did announce international last week. So we've been the fastest growing airline in the United States. Launched 4 years ago. Just hit over 50 planes. But the unique thing for us coming out of the pandemic, we built the entire airline model post-pandemic, right? So we launched out of it, not sure what trends were going to be like, but flexibility was key, as Onur mentioned. And really over the last 12 months, you've had a big divergence in the U.S. We've actually got a premium cabin, which is odd for a low-cost carrier, but premium has been outperforming by double digits. But your basic economy level product in the U.S. significantly down, right? So you're seeing a larger and larger divergence between premium and non-premium. And so how, especially as on the lower cost side, how are you able to capture and monetize and add value to that when you're kind of offering a different product than traditional low-cost carriers have had? So that's on the top of mind for us. The retailing side is obviously also on the top of mind for us. And really, how are you managing the search and distribution as it evolves with guest preference?
Sophie, what are some of the customer behavioral changes you're seeing?
Yeah, and I'm going to steal everyone's point so far, I think. Flexibility, absolutely, and in fact, we launched our Flex Pass last month, and that's doing really well, which is essentially people are buying the ability to waiver any change fees And that's all it is, but actually the stickiness of that has been phenomenal, much stronger than we thought it was going to be, but it does go on the back of people want the flexibility or comfort there's flexibility. I think the other thing that we've seen is ancillary attachment. So there was a big uplift in ancillary attachment during COVID where people wanted to know which seat they were going to sit in, so more people were choosing to allocate a seat. We're seeing that is stuck and hasn't sort of gone away. We're seeing still a lot later booking in terms of behavior, and so it's how you tap into that and that uncertainty almost, because you don't have visibility till much later than we used to have. And then I think AI is the other one, and how do we make sure that we're adapting the website to deal with the fact that people are searching with a lot longer search terms and phrases when they're searching in the AI tools. It's no longer cheap flights from UK to Spain. It's I want to travel somewhere where the temperature's this and my hotel's near a beach and I've got all of these things and I've got 4 kids and all the rest of it. So people are looking for a lot more richness in their search, and it's how do we make sure that the website is serving up the right content when people are searching like that. That's the key thing too.
So let's build on the emerging role of AI as a search platform. It's something that has come up in a few sessions, and it's something that I'm thinking a lot about. You know, I'm taken back, you know, to when Google emerged, which was the late 90s. It seems like it's been around forever, but it was 1997 or 8. And everyone was like, oh, what is this thing going to do? And so I have to ask, again, I want to start with the airlines, but Dee, I want to come to you, is ChatGPT, you know, these AI platforms, are they good witches or bad witches? I mean, you know, could they come between you and your customers, given their power and their utility and their ease of use? Is that a concern? Do they have the potential to drive up what we would now call our search costs? Are you concerned about the possible increase in not just the drive on your systems, but the potential increase in look-to-book ratios and things like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because, Henry, I think you and I had met right around that time. I had United.com at the time, and if you remember, content aggregators were very popular, where they're just coming out with Kayak and Fairchase, if you remember some of these. I think the principle, if you look back and learn from that, the principle is going to be similar, because you have a next generation of front end that can provide some benefits, like the Chat GPTs, like the Claude, like the other assistants. But my point is, you have to then take an ecosystem strategy, just like we did back then. And just to give you a sense, if you remember, I paid 25 cents per customer acquisition for my initial deal with Kayak. Of course, then we got jacked up in the early 2000s, but the point is, the first movers are going to have an advantage to be able to work with content into these ecosystem providers. So that's number one. And just quickly on number two, then the airline wants to continue. We've already heard that. Onur, you talked about, I still want to own my customer. I still want to have that interface. So you're going to have to take a multi-pronged approach to how you then develop. And now what we've done with one carrier that we saw on stage this morning, we've actually developed the next generation interface for true LLM-based searches, and that'll be launched out here in the next couple of months. But we're very excited about that, using some of the IBM products, but also some other partners as well. We're very excited about how that next generation, not necessarily in the sales cycle, but in the management and the irregular operations and the servicing side as well.
Does AI, generative AI, have the potential to completely disrupt and upend the sales cycle?
Yeah, so one big question I think outstanding. So Google Flights has had their AI, Gen AI product that's rolled out, but the big question is, where is it actually getting trained on, right? So it's focusing significantly on the biggest data sets, but for those airlines that, like ourselves, fly to secondaries, it's not getting trained on that. So if you do a search for what's the cheapest nonstop flight from Maine to Florida or somewhere else, it searches Boston Logan 2.5 hours away, when we have the only nonstops. We have the most destinations out of Maine as the state of Maine. So for us, that's a huge red flag about what data sets are these LLMs actually being trained on.
Sophie?
Yeah, no, I just add to that. I think, we've spent some time with both Microsoft and Google, and I think what's interesting is how can you be seen to be an authority? That's what these engines look for, is to be an authority. And it might even be, things we're looking at is, even if you have good, reliable weather information, for example, embedded into your website, it makes you seem to be more of an authority, which is more likely to serve up your product in the results. So it is about adapting. And I do think it's going to disrupt the market. It's going to disrupt what was traditional SEO and PPC. And, and for Google, I guess it is a big threat because that is a big channel for us spend-wise. So it is about how do we look at the architecture of our own website to be seen to be an authority, and that might be including other information that makes us look more authoritative on that topic of that destination. That means we're more likely to be served. But then I think, going back to Onur's point, I think the point is, how do we get people to come to us directly, and how do we own the customer is about the app. And about how do we want that app to handhold the customer all the way through the journey, i.e. it tells them what departure gate their flight's going from, it tells them what baggage belt their bags are coming off, it's going to do all biometrics. So I think if you can do that, then potentially you help to bypass the need to search, because the more people are familiar with you're going to be the one hand-holding them, the less potentially you're going to be reliant on search. And so I think you need to invest in both of those two sides.
I'm just going to add to all of this. I think the difference between GenAI, LLM platforms, and what Google offered to people so far is that it's like an assistance. It's like serving the role of guiding people regarding all aspects of their lives. Whereas Google was more of a information search platform, and then transformed into a sales platform. Whereas we are all living with ChatGPT nowadays, telling our individual stories, very personal stories. ChatGPT knows about my family, about my daughters, about my wife, about so many things in only a few months, not more than that. So now moving into the stage of gaining my trust. So the more I try ChatGPT and the more I see the correct guidance from ChatGPT, my trust is going to build, and for all the passengers. And from there on, I think that's a very important thing, gaining passengers' trust. Once they do that, I think adding the sales functions or post-sales functions, like for people to be able to search for their points or miles through LLM without needing to go directly to the airlines' websites, direct channels, or doing all the post-booking transactions. It's just a matter of technology. Once they gain our trust, then people will be there. Of course, we won't be losing our direct touch with our passengers, but I just think that this transformation is going to be much quicker, more natural compared to how Google changed our lives.
Interesting. Ricky, I know that you guys at Allianz are using AI for offer management and some other functions. I'm just curious, how's it working? Are you pleased with it? Are there areas where you're saying, okay, it's okay to use here, but not there?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to trust and making it easy and seem genuine. And so, sometimes we call ourselves the grandfather, not necessarily the godfather of fintech, because we've been using machine learning, AI, or whatever buzzword we want to use for the day since 2007, and really having those personal messages. And we've been very happy, and we felt it's been very successful with our partners and growing our partners' revenue by 10 to 15% a year, and also building loyalty with our partners, because it is genuine. It is relevant to the individual. It is learning. And then on the flip side, we're using AI on the claims and on saying, hey, your flight was delayed, and we're building that awareness. And so we're triggering a claim. We're saying, hey, Henry, your flight was delayed. We owe you $50. How would you like to be paid? And a claim's already open in case we owe you more than that. So that's a surprise and delight, and just making minor situations easier, which again goes back to leveraging AI to building loyalty with our partners and being genuine about things happen.
Are you able to use it for targeting the customers?
We use it every day for targeting customers. Every year we do about 1.7 billion in real-time quotes, where we may not know that it's Sophie, but we know enough about her to know she's flying from Charles de Gaulle to Edinburgh, and she's going over a weekend, so she's probably golfing, and we're going to target her with a golf message. And if she's going with 2 or 3 people, maybe it's a family message, and we're going to target the right products and the right benefits. And if she's going during rainy season, we're going to talk about delays. If she's not, we're going to talk about how to just make sure that we're protecting her golf clubs while she's traveling, not just on the plane, because there'd never be any baggage issues, ever. No airline has baggage issues. And so these are the things that we focus on and personalize.
All right. So I'm curious if you are seeing any changes with customer behavior in terms of, I want to build on something Lukas said, the so-called premium leisure market. Lukas, you mentioned that you have a premium cabin. You have actually 3 cabins on the plane in terms of seating. Onur, you and Pegasus and easyJet do not. But I'm just curious if you're seeing your customers asking you for other products that are premium in nature, whether it's, you mentioned the allocated seat, but fast track security, priority boarding, lounge access, whatever it might be that would do it. Are you guys seeing that?
Yes, I think, we cannot separate the customers in terms of, completely premium seeking, non-premium seeking. A customer who is after affordable flight price, a smart purchase, can also look after, seek some comforts during the travel at the airport. These can go together. I think as Pegasus Airlines, we're just saying that we need to stick to our model, our low-cost model, unbundling the products, and offering all ancillary products with good quality, with high variety, and at affordable prices. So as long as we offer these 3 ingredients with our ancillary products and offer as competitive prices as possible, we don't see a need to move to a more hybrid model. We believe we need to stick to our core low-cost model.
Yeah, certainly from an easyJet perspective, the thing that people are looking for is still great value. But as I mentioned when we were talking earlier, I think people are less price sensitive when it comes to ancillaries. And I think people do like to be able to have the unbundled version. But what we're finding is working well for us now is also bundles. So you can create the equivalent of a premium bundle by having fast track security, premium seating as in upfront seating, speedy boarding. You can include a full-size cabin bag and a second bag. So you can create a premium bundle, and actually we've just relaunched 3 of our bundles, and actually the attractiveness of the bundles seems to be working well. So it's interesting because we obviously disaggregated everything when we first launched as an airline, but what's working now is the simplicity of being able to access a package of things. So the bundles seem to be working particularly well. What we haven't got to yet is properly revenue managing the bundles. Actually, at the moment, it's just the component prices added up, but people seem to be converting to that. I think if we can then start revenue managing individual bundles, which is the work the team are doing right now, I think that'll give us a further advantage. But yeah, definitely seeing a drive towards premiumization without needing, for us on short haul, without needing a premium cabin. But people are looking to have a better experience, and so we'll build that, and the bundles are working well.
Yeah, that's definitely something that has been a huge trend. We launched 4.5 years ago. We launched with bundles as a fare family, but actually it was all unbundled behind the hood. So we're able to monetize individually and then custom bundle on a la carte. So everything's been built so that you can offer different experiences, and we really try to separate it so that it's in-flight, in-cabin. That's really your cabin experience, but the bundle on availability is actually much greater than that. So it has the feel of a fare family or a premium, but it's fully unbundled on that side. And so we have differentiated pricing. It's not some of products or some of segments on that side, which has ultimate flexibility. And you've seen most lower cost carriers kind of follow that as well.
We're Oh, go ahead, Dee.
Well, I was
Sorry.
going to say, maybe this is the area to perhaps challenge, because my guess is that the airlines are still using various methods to come up with what is the right price, placement, and the discount, whatever you decide to do, whether it be spreadsheets, whether it be tool sets. And this is where I think AI can really come in for the automated part, right? So we spend about $6 billion a year in research. We have about 30 patents on a specific AI model that is around propensity analysis for determining exactly which area based on customer information, whether it be the price or the placement, whatever. We call it dynamic retailing, but that is going to be something that we as vendors, and I think others as well, will then offer as a basis for you to put in your criteria in your area to then automate some of these interactions, because the more and more we see, the front end interaction is more and more AI based or more customer based, and the more you can automate, the better you have on the revenue, but also on your costs.
Interesting. So I want to build on this discussion of AI and shift it from the customer to more of the broader commercial environment. It's a volatile world. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, it's volatile. There have been trade issues, there are geopolitical issues, there are regional conflicts, there are all sorts of external factors that are buffeting airlines. And in Europe, you're feeling particular pressures from the Russia-Ukraine war, as well as other issues. There are strikes that close off in entire countries' airspace at the drop of a hat, and so on. How are you using AI or other technologies to help you manage these issues as they arise, but anticipate and maybe be proactive in determining if there are signals that might cause some of them to come up so that you can be ahead of the curve? Sophie, would you start?
Yeah,
Please.
I mean, from a revenue management perspective, I would say we've been doing AI since before the word AI was invented. I mean, we've had a virtual pricing manager for years that was looking at behavior that the human pricing manager was doing and was replicating it. I think the space, and obviously I talked earlier about our revenue management team and the data science embedding in that. I think the newer space for us is around scheduling, to take into account that kind of macro environment we're in. So scheduling also sits in my area. One of the things we've done is we have introduced the software actually that Southwest Airlines use, whereby you can model the impact of different external environments on your schedule and the likelihood of the success of your schedule. So we will build a schedule and we'll run through something like we're using SkySim at the moment to predict what the on-time performance will be of that schedule. It will also flag where there are hotspots in your line of flying that potentially mean you're not going to be able to have a successful line of flying that day, and then the team can go in and manually adjust the schedule in the build process. And then what we've done for the last couple of years now is look at what if ATC delays get 5% worse, 10% worse, what would that do to the schedule? And we use a lot of the Eurocontrol information that's available on likely air traffic growth and congestion to say, okay, so we made the assumption actually for this summer it would be 5% worse than last summer, which was an awful summer, but we adjusted the schedule and actually, touch wood, and we're nearly over the summer, we've actually had quite a successful summer operationally, but it meant we had to make some difficult decisions in terms of what flying do we adjust, what flying do we take out. A lot of the airports we fly to are curfewed. So how do we make sure that you've got enough buffer before the curfew so you're not going to be diverted to another airport? So those sorts of tools now look at forecasting, give you scenarios, and scenario planning I think are going to be more and more important as we go forward.
Has it been effective?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, our on-time performance this year is up something like 3 or 4 percentage points for this summer, and cancellations and disruption. Our disruption costs, I think, last year was something like £250 million. And so this year it will be lower. It'll still be high because you still get faced with the strikes you talked about and so on as well, but it will come down significantly because of those preemptive actions we've been able to take. Whereas historically, you'd get to the summer season and you'd be taking action in season, so you'd be taking flying out in season. Now we can do it at the design phase, and the more you can do in the design phase, the smarter you can be and more tactical you can be. Rather than being reactive, you can be much more proactive.
Yeah, Ricky, did you?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're certainly not an airline, but we see a lot of disruptions across all of our partners around the world. And because we have all of the data, very much like Dee was talking about with some of his tools, we're able to partner with our airlines and say, here's what we're seeing, here are the trends that we're seeing ahead of time, here's what we saw last time. And so it may not always change the route planning, but certainly gives a heads up and an understanding on when their customer service should be seeing more disruptions. And then we're developing products to help with those disruptions so that there is more of a benefit to our partner and less of a strain on their operations.
I can add to that. I mean, as Pegasus, we are quite advanced in terms of using AI technologies in commercial aspects. But your question was mainly about operations and disruptions. The way I see it is, I mean, from I don't know what Sophie thinks, but taking the decisions and integrating a new technology, doing things differently in terms of the commercial functions is way easier and way less fragmented compared to making a change in operations. At the end of the day, it's myself and CFO and CEO and with the critical management team in commercial team, we can get together and decide on embarking on a transformation journey, and we can get it done in a year and a half time. Whereas in airlines, operations is so fragmented. It's like, is it the crew? Is it the ground operations? You're working with so many external parties in terms of ground operations. The cabin crew, the maintenance crew, they all have their realities. And if the organization is also fragmented, it's really difficult to actually, make this decision to move forward. So I want to congratulate easyJet for doing that. We are now talking to different partners, vendors, and searching for the sector about what we can do. But yeah, we've experienced that it's not been an easy journey to embark on. I think the organization, especially top management's persistence on making a change with AI in operations is very important, because there will be more hurdles, there will be more difficulties in this process compared to like making a change in commercial functions.
I think if I may chip in,
Yeah, please.
I think the key thing, and I'm pick up on your point, Onur, I think it's completely right, is we have to show people the art of the possible. So when I was doing so before I took on this role 5 years ago, I was scheduling director at easyJet, and I took pretty much the whole scheduling team to Southwest in Dallas to say, they have 700 aircraft. We had at the time about 300 aircraft, and say, we can't carry on doing what we're doing with 300 aircraft. It's so manual. We've got to look at doing things differently. But they would see that as a threat potentially. So that's why I took the whole team out there to say, look at the art of the possible if you were to more than double the size of the airline. So I think it's about exposing people to other airlines across the world where we're not competing, or other industries, to say, well, how has this worked at Amazon? How has this worked at supermarket retailing in Ocado in the UK, for example? Like, how have they gone that whole digital journey? And I think that's what we almost need to do with our leaders, is to get them out there and actually physically take them places and then open their eyes to it so they can see the art of the possible. I think that's really important. That's what we had to do that journey, right?
I respect the fact that you took your team not just to another airline in another country on another continent, and in Texas. You get cowboy boots. I used to live in Dallas, I can say that. Onur, you have an innovation lab in Silicon Valley. You don't hear of low-cost airlines starting an innovation lab. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if you would have said, oh, we're going to turn to a company like, whether it's IBM or someone else, to do that innovation for you. Why do that? And is it working? I know it's new, but is it working, or is it?
Yeah, we established an innovation lab in San Francisco like 1.5 years ago, and it's not a operational innovation lab, so we don't have developers and big staff there actually doing POCs, etc. So we're still keeping it quite central. However, at some point, with the evolution of AI and impact of technology in our business, we felt the need to be out there, to be touching to startups, to be talking to the best universities, the academicians over there. And after a while, we searched for different locations, and we decided we should be at Silicon Valley. At the end of the day, that's where this transformation is happening quickest. It's what we're doing is basically the model is for a low-cost airline. I think this is the right model. Still, the needs of the business functions is driving the effort. So we are actually defining what we need from the innovation lab. But we have very skilled few people out there whose only job is to talk to the universities, talk to the startups, to be in that ecosystem, to be searching for the best technology that we can use. And we generated a few use cases that we wouldn't be able to do it if we were searching it from Turkey or so far away from that world. It's been successful so far, and yeah, we'll keep going that way.
Lukas, David Neeleman is an innovator. I mean, not just in the airline space. He helped create what we now know as Navitaire. How do you guys handle and approach innovation?
Yeah, so
especially when your founder is, a hands-on kind of guy.
he is very hands-on. So, for us, we've got a couple of core systems, right? Partner systems. So we use New Skies Navitaire, but I'd say we probably have more customization on top of that than any, or certainly for our size, than any other carrier. And so for us, we've actually decided to insource it. We're in Utah. There's a strong tech culture. So the vast majority of our technology team's insourced. We're local for the most part. And we, when possible, try to build if we think it's going to be a technology advantage on that versus just outsource. Now, if it's a non-differentiator, obviously you're going to go take it off the shelf. But I'd say, especially on the commercial side, we do try to build as much customization in-house because we do think your ability to be nimble, launching out the gate, you're not chained to a lot of technology systems, right? So for us, a huge piece in the U.S. ecosystem is credit card, co-brand loyalty. We actually launched probably faster co-brand card than anybody. We launched a year and a half ago, just 3 years before our third anniversary. We're going to roll out loyalty in the next 10 days as an odd thing. Most airlines had loyalty first, then you wrap in co-brand after, right? For us, it's the economics first, then you wrap everything around. How do you actually enhance that? So for us, that's the big differentiator, and where we're putting our money in is the highest ROI.
Lukas, you mentioned credit card, which, I was going to get to payments, so natural segue. The role of payments is changing in commercial. There are many new types of payments that are being introduced in many countries. I'm just curious, from a commercial standpoint, how are you viewing these? Are payments more important perhaps now than they were, say, a year or two ago? Do you anticipate their importance changing, whether becoming more or less important over the next few years, and why? So, Onur, would you start us off, please?
Payments is a difficult area for us, perhaps mainly because we are operating in a diverse geography. Europe is a major. We have a major network in Europe, but we also operate in Turkey and then CIS and North Africa, Middle East. So each of these geographies have different payment methods, and their evolution to new technologies have been at different phases. So it's something that we always worked on continuously. And we actually have a payment committee internally. Like many other committees, payment is so complicated for us that for many years we've been managing our integration to new payment methods through a payment committee that regularly meets, like IT people, technology people, finance people, commercial people are all around the table because we need to cater to all different geographies and different sales channels.
Sophie, what about at Easy?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that the challenge is where do you invest your efforts? Because, as you say, certain markets will have a specific credit card or a payment method that's more unique to that market. And do you go and try and invest in developing for, like in Holland, for example, in the Netherlands, Ideal is a payment form that we don't currently accept. But then with something like Apple Pay coming on, it's almost superseding now all the individuals. So where do you put your bets, really? Do you try and tailor to each of the different markets and the individual cards or payments banks that might be relevant in those, or do you go in with something like the PayPal or the Apple Pay that seems to be growing now and adapting much more? And I think with Apple Pay and PayPal, they're now starting to offer payments in installments. Thank you. So I think we were looking at the sort of buy now, pay later world, which we're still looking at, because I think that's the other thing for airlines. We're all pay up front. And I think that's one of the things, for easyJet holidays, you pay a low deposit and then you can pay in whatever installments you choose to pay. And much more in the package holiday market, that's the world they're in. And certainly for the bigger ticket items, that works. And I think for airlines, certainly, the fares, luckily for us, sometimes are quite high. So being able to offer some sort of payment in installments is the right thing to do. But it's how do you invest in the right focus area when everything's moving at pace, without it being wasted energy. I think that's the challenge that we're always looking at internally. And as you say, it's IT, it's finance, it's commercial, and it's how you bring all that together. And do you invest your resource there versus investing it in developing bundles or developing the next big thing? So that's always the trade-off that we've got.
Lukas, what about it at Breeze? I mean, credit card obviously, but anything?
Yeah, I think the big key is differentiating on how you're trying to steer, I guess, guest preference. So you want to be, in similar to distribution, you want to have as broad a coverage as possible, but as an airline, you clearly want certain forms versus other forms, right? So for us, because it's the greatest economic driver, you're trying to, how do you steer as much towards your own card as possible on that side? Then you try to meet to typically lowest cost of distribution, and then, but at the end of the day, you still want to be able to take as much flexible payment as possible. Yep.
Ricky, when we were speaking about preparing for this, you mentioned that you're accepting now airline miles as a form of payment for insurance, which is, I think, a groundbreaking.
Yeah. So you can use your miles to purchase a ticket. You can use your miles to purchase a drink in a club. You can now use, and Delta just launched, the ability to purchase travel insurance with your Sky Miles. And so we're rolling that out as just another form of currency or another form of payment, like an Apple Pay or anything else around the world. So this is not only allowing customers to use whatever form of payment they want, whatever method they want, but it's allowing our partners to get miles off the books if they want, and then they also will get their compensation for that sale. So it's building loyalty, it's giving customers what they want, and growing the program and the importance.
IBM has had a partnership with Apple, and some of that has manifested itself into the airline environment. Anything new there?
Well, a couple things. One is, you're right, so we did develop, and this is on the employee side of it, so onboard apps. We worked with United to do their onboard app. Singapore Airlines we did with the pilot app. We have a whole portfolio of Apple apps. But the payment onboard, think about that when you're in the sky, the offline online has been something where we have patents behind it. We've been able to work that very seamlessly for particularly payments, right? But the other one I would say also, and let me kind of switch gears a little bit, that is definitely a portfolio we have, but the challenge for airlines, I've always wondered why, because many of you have co-branded credit cards, right? But when customers use them, we don't necessarily incent that behavior from the airline. We try to get it in your portfolio. However, if they're buying on your airline with your co-branded card, you and your loyalty program can get access into what is the spend and what is the differentiated spend in this category. And I've always wondered, why aren't we leveraging that from a commercial perspective a little bit more? Because you do have the portfolio there, and the bank will give you access, I believe, if it's your own co-branded card. We did it We had that many, many years ago. Something to think about.
Do you have a?
We don't have one yet. Well, we used to have one, and then we haven't had one for a number of years. We're looking at that space now. But you're absolutely right, because I think it's the insight you can get into total basket spend and what proportion of that basket is yours versus other air travel or other more generic spend, and getting a much richer profile of your customer, and therefore you can start targeting bundles or whatever else. I think it's a huge ecosystem to play in, definitely.
So as we wrap up, I want to talk about the systems that for the airlines you run on. The passenger service systems. We're moving to an offer and order based world. It's a long transition. It seems like it's been going on for 1 million years. It seems like it will take another 1 million years to get done. But Onur, Pegasus is actually making progress with this. We heard from your Hit It about what you're doing with them on their Oxygen platform. It is an offer and order system. So you're one of the true pioneers. Is it perform? I know it's new, but are you pleased with the performance? What have you learned from it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's at the very initial stage, so very early to comment on the results and how it's progressing. But from strategic point of view, there are two aspects of it. First, transition to NDC 24.1, the latest NDC version, opens lots of gates, like offering ancillaries on GDSs that we couldn't effectively do before. And that's very important for airlines like ourselves, where we are operating in a wide network, and in our network, it's not like in Europe. GDS is a very important sales channel for us. And the second is the offer and order, single order ID management system. We haven't been very successful with third-party ancillaries so far. I think there are a few reasons behind that. We need to be able to, as airlines, we need to be able to offer something unique to the passengers that they cannot get anywhere else. Is it variety? Well, others can offer that much better. Is it best price? Well, other platforms offer better. Is it exclusive product? No, I don't think any third parties are giving any exclusive product to any airlines. And there was the bottleneck of hurdle of single convenience and single order management. So if we don't have any of these, why would passengers book hotel or car rental or fast track or lounge through an airline? I think the biggest advantage now is that single order ID and offer and order management is bringing that sort of convenience to the passengers, that they can manage their booking and everything in their booking with a single order ID. And finally, of course, from pricing filing point of view, we've been using continuous pricing for a few years, and it's been very successful. But we couldn't use that on GDSs, for instance. Now we can use our more advanced pricing filing systems that we use on our direct channels on the GDSs, which plays a major importance in our whole sales. So there are lots of benefits coming, and we will see the early results.
Okay, thanks. As we wrap up, I'm going to ask each of you to describe your outlook for 2026 in one word. D, start.
Optimistic.
Onur.
Hopeful.
Luke.
Every day for us is crazy.
Amazing.
Exciting.
It's good to hear all the positivity. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our panel for a terrific discussion.